Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss next chapter of your next unit, that is influenza. Children, you may have heard or read about the epidemics, something like the spread of dengue or H1N1. News channels often hold discussions about what could have been done to prevent the spread of disease. But what if there was a new strain of flu or fever that did not respond to medication, or from which people would only recover if it were detected in the early stages? What if one were not sure how the disease was spreading and there were no inoculations to protect one from it? Work we have to work here for that. So here in this chapter that is given there, what has been shown? It has been shown that in 1918, as a terrible flu pandemic swept to the world, children danced to the nursery rhymes, and I had a little bird and its name was Angel. I opened the window and in flew Angel. Man's brutality to man was responsible for millions of deaths in the First World War. It has been shown that how brutal the situation was there, how critical was the situation there. The war had almost come to an end when mankind was struck by a terrible contagion that started adding to the already horrific death toll. It increased the death rates. In the spring of 1918, large number of soldiers on the battlefields of France became ill and they complained of sore throat and they felt ill. That was their condition was worsened. It was worst condition for them. Headache and loss of appetite. Although it appeared to be highly infectious, more victims recovered quickly. Then this induced doctors to call the disease the 3-day fever. French soldiers jokingly referred to it as the Spanish flu, while in Spain they called it the French flu. Fingers were being pointed everywhere. That means it was at the large scale, it was just increasing day by day. With the Middle East, China, and India all being named the sources of the infections at various times. For next few months, some of the soldiers continued to be infected with the virus, but there were very few deaths. However, in the summer of 1918, the symptoms grew much worse. About a fifth of the victims developed bronchial pneumonia, or we can say that is blood poisoning. A large percentage of these men died. Others developed heliotrope cyanosis. Doctors were able to identify this with the bluish color of the victim's skin. It was also just producing a kind of fragrance. And then people died a few days of contracting it. The second wave of the epidemic spread quickly. In one sector of the Western Front, over 70,000 American troops were hospitalized and nearly one-third of these men died. Means the death rate increased day by day. By the end of the summer, the virus has reached the German army also, and many of the soldiers died, killing over 4 lakhs civilians in 1918. Then in Britain, the outbreak of cholera in 1849 had already resulted in high death, and it provided a sign of the national scale. All this changed when the first case of influenza were detected in Glasgow in that was the time May 1918. It soon spread to other towns and cities during the next few months, and the virus killed over 2 lakh people in Britain. Then day by day, and place by place, it used to spread more and more. Then, while these heroic and imaginative attempts to deal with this new strain of influenza went on, no effective treatment was in sight. The US was also severely affected by the virus. By September, a particularly nasty strain swept across the country. Almost half a million Americans died of the disease by early December 1918. It was the time shown there that 1918 and many of the people died. India was the country that suffered possibly the most. The first cases were reported in Bombay in June 1918 and soon Karachi, the part of the India now, and after them in Pakistan and in Chennai also. These reports, incidents of this disease going to be increased day by day. Then 16 million people in India died of the disease between June 1918 and July 1919. It has been estimated that the influenza pandemic claimed over 70 million lives all over the world. In India alone, the number of people killed by influenza was higher than the total number of the people killed during the First World War. Adults free of disease were so alarmed by its symptoms and they wouldn't even look at their neighbors, let alone help them. Some of the sick and their children simply starved to death from lack of the attention and care. Throughout the world, there was a strong sense of doom. Victor Vaughan, an eminent surgeon, declared, "It is the epidemic continues its mathematical race of quickness, civilization, and easily disappear from the face of the earth within a few weeks." People felt so scared that cities became virtual ghost towns, and photographers taken at the time deserted streets with just a few members of the ambulance crew or the city workers engaged in the essential works. All of them can't seen wearing masks. Means the situation was so critical as during corona COVID-19 time we also have faced the same critical situation. In some places it became a crime even to shake hands. In more recent times, many places have been affected by variant strains of influenza virus such as the bird flu virus and H1N1. In some countries, the measures taken to contain the outbreaks have been severe. People have been prevented from traveling. Children and teachers entering schools had to have their temperatures taken. Bottles of sterilizing hand wash have been made freely available and mandatory to use in public buildings. Then few people believe that a pandemic on the scale of 1918 could ever happen again, although we must always be on our guard. The same is the situation we can see in our society nowadays also in case of COVID-19. We see lots of these cross strains, viral infections in Southeast Asia now. Some experts call it viral chatter. It has been compared with the terrorist chatter that goes on over airways detected by those listening in with a view or prevent any possible terrorist activity that might be lying just ahead. The good news is that government around the world working alongside the World Health Organization are interesting hugely in vaccine research. Just like the soldiers in the First World War, we must remain one step ahead of the enemy called influenza. That was the very critical situation, and it affected the lives of the people and their lifestyles very much. And the loss of the life